We're like feeling the autumn vibes
we
right
really
now.
Are. I know. It's not planned, I swear.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, tree spirits.
Yes, exactly. Okay, hello, welcome back to my channel. I haven't been here for a while, but I've got Olivia.
Hi.
So yeah, this is the first time we're meeting up. You just happen to be in Germany. And I happen to live here, so we were like, no, it really was like that, because you were like, oh, I'm in Passau, and I'm like, oh, I live like 30 minutes from here. So yeah, so we met up, went like to some antique stores and stuff, had some lunch. But yeah, today we're kind of just like, I'm kind of interviewing you a little bit, talking to you a little bit. But yeah, how would you introduce yourself to anyone who doesn't know you?
So I am a witch among many other things. I think my content reflects that. So I'm like a photographer and a pole dance instructor and a traveler and all these other things. But my craft specifically is more based around like working around local spirits and spirits of the dead, and doing things that are more about like dirt and sticks and bones and things of that sort. So I'm much more of a folk practitioner among anything else. And that's kind of how I would describe myself.
So how long have you like just been practicing and stuff?
I've been practicing, oh my god, a very long time. I want to say, maybe like 13, okay. 15 years. So a good amount of time. But I think I've only started honing in on it when I was able to be open about it. So around 2016-ish is when I was able to kind of like really dive in and not have to dabble. Yeah,
I think similar for me. So I mean you guys know this if you follow my channel. I've grown up in a very witchy family, but I grew up Wiccan, and then I think for me a big shift was around the time of 2019, kind of like,
oh, that recent.
Yeah, that was cool. Kind of when I moved from Wicca more over to like trad and like folk magic. So obviously this is, October time and like that time of year. I'm gonna just copy the question that you asked me. Does anything like change for you this time of year?
I think yeah. I mean, I'm a really seasonal person within my craft and without, so like no matter what, I'm always moving and shifting with the seasons. So definitely, but I think my focus on protection and warding, because I tend to feel like spirits are a little more chatty, and like, if please don't sometimes, like if there's too many of them, I'm like, I'm so busy right now, I can't, or they're just kind of too chatty just in general. So protections, I think, just kind of like go a lot higher, but also I tend to start slowing down and focusing a lot more on like death and endings and shifts and transitions, and I guess preparing for the death section of life or of the year. So that transition is like a really big emphasis in my practice. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I guess similar. I don't do as much protection, I think, because I'm pretty, I don't know, I don't have that much noise, I guess, where I am, so that's good. And I've noticed I had a phase where I did so much protection that I almost felt like I built too high of a wall and then nothing was able to come through. And so now I do like a little less of that, where I'm just like,
you kind of like fortressed yourself away. I actually don't do a ton of protection. Like I do like very light general ones for the most part, but like otherwise I'm not like constantly just like wired, just completely covered up in armor or anything. But I have noticed that if you put too many, things go kind of silent. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I feel like for me, I have like a couple. So this is another thing. I don't know how you feel about it. I don't like putting out, especially protection. Like I don't like to tell people, because I'm a big, like, in case someone else is like, so I don't say like which, for example, if I'm wearing like a jewelry piece, I'm not going to tell you which piece of it is actually the protective charm, or which oils I may or may not be, that type of thing.
I'm similar. I mean, like, there are certain things, like, obviously everybody knows that, like, this one's a protection charm. Like, everybody knows that that's it because I've talked about it. But it's like, I'm always wearing something.
Yeah.
You just don't know like what exactly that is, or like even in my house there's plenty of spells everywhere, and I will never tell every single one of them ever. So I'm similar in that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially being online, like you don't want to be like showcasing everything. That I feel like that's almost like the witch's equivalent of like putting your address online or something, and being like, yeah, these are all of my, or like these are my lock codes to my apartment. Like that's kind of how it feels.
Exactly. Like I wouldn't want to be like, oh, my favorite ingredients to use are this specific leaf, and like my favorite herb to use is this specific herb. Like I feel like some people do, obviously, like for example with the poison path, for me I do obviously have like a couple of plants that I post where I'm like, this is the plants that I really like.
And I think these senses, but I'm not going to tell you like how to use them in a specific protection spell that I use specifically for this or for me.
Exactly.
I'll just say I like this one for protection.
Exactly.
Yeah,
because you don't want bitches out there looking at you, copying you, and then trying to get at you.
it happens.
I do. So with the upcoming like thinning of the veil, do you feel like that's a thing for you? Do you feel that veil thinning? And also, do you have anything planned for that time?
I do, but something very different than usual. So for the veil thinning, I do believe that it's just the time of year for that, like kind of like how seasons change. I feel like spirits are all part of all of the same ecosystem, right? Like not even just mundanely speaking, but like energetically speaking, it's all part of the same ecosystem. So as things begin to transition and change through the seasons, I feel like spirits also tend to do that. Because I noticed that some spirits go more quiet, if not just completely just gone during certain times of the year, and so on for each. And then for my plans this year, I'm actually going to Mexico for Day of the Dead.
Oh, cool.
And I have a friend who is going to show me the specific city where people take their statues and walk on their knees all the way to go get their statues blessed of La Santa Muerte. So I think that has been on my bucket list forever. So yeah, that'll be really exciting to see, and I'm excited to like learn a lot while I'm there. Hopefully. So those are my plans.
That sounds really special, especially if it's a bucket list item. That sounds cool.
Been on my bucket list forever.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. And so you obviously have started learning Spanish in preparation for that also?
Yes. Yeah. That's one reason why I've started to learn Spanish. I mean, I live in a place where especially when I used to live in LA, there was a lot of Spanish speakers. So like, I just wanted to be able to communicate better. But also that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that actually lends me into like, do you feel like where you currently are, there's like a lot of spirits that you already have like befriended, let's say, or like have made acquaintanceship with?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Colorado, and I grew up in or a little outside of Denver, and so there's a lot of areas where I used to go that have like little parks and stuff that I've made connections with the nature spirits there, and also cemeteries that I've made connections with the spirits there. So like when I moved back, it almost felt like they were like, you're visiting us, or like, hi, you know, like, good to see you. Like, it felt like kind of like familiar and kind of like old friends and family saying hi. So yes.
Yeah. Okay. So do you have any hot takes for me? I love a good hot take.
Yeah, since it's October, I think hot takes around like spirits, communication, graveyard stuff. First of all, take no as an answer, and sometimes it'll be often. Like, just because you want to work with that spirit does not mean that they want to work with. Like, the power of consent works also in the afterlife, as well as just like, don't try to work with spirits just around the spooky season, because I feel like that's kind of rude. If you're gonna work with a spirit, do it all the time, or at least tell them that it's just for the spooky season. And then working in graveyards, try to respect everybody, even the living that goes there. Don't leave any weird things to freak people out. And graveyard dirt, like, I don't know, like, I just feel like, yes, it's great, yes, it's powerful, but it's it's almost overused in a way. Like, it's kind of like, just go grab some graveyard dirt, and it's like, no, there's like a whole ritual to like go and get this, and like be respectful about it, and not just like go and scoop it up just because you can. Like, that's not a great way to do that. But I do think that people don't respect graveyards and the spirits there as much as they should. I feel like a lot of the time it's take instead of like building a relationship with them, and actually, you know, kind of give and take if that's what is going to happen. So I don't know if that's like a hot take, but I just feel like
it's good advice.
A lot of the time in our community and like online, it's kind of like, oh, it's spooky season, go get some graveyard dirt, go talk to the spirits, go do, and it's like,
hold on,
yeah, can you chill for a second, like leave them alone, you know? Exactly.
I think something that I would probably say or suggest in that case is like, imagine you saw this random person at your great-grandfather's or grandfather's grave. Like, would you be okie dokie with them just taking dirt, or would you want to have like, you already have like a little bit of like, oh, I know this person comes here often, they leave flowers for my grandfather, they have like a little working relationship, this is cool for me. You know, because you wouldn't just want some like random person in October rolling up and being like,
it's not like, just be respectful of also the living family of that person, you know? So that's a really good point. And I think like, if you look at it that way of just, if you're a spirit, I always think about like somebody new moving into your neighborhood, and then like you start kind of like, okay, now you're starting to see this person, like at first you're like, what do they want? Like if they just walked up to you and was like, hey, can I have $50? And you'd be like, no, who are you?
Go
you know,
away.
Maybe you'd say okay if they were like, here's your favorite bottle of liquor, like maybe, but even still,
like,
but
how do you know that?
Exactly, right? Like, yeah, that's weird. But like, if somebody comes by and you see them, like, oh, I know that they show up every Wednesday at dusk, and then sometimes they'll bring me like teas, or sometimes they'll bring me something, and then like now they're learning me of like what I like. Like, you're more inclined to talk to that person and work with that person. And then maybe one day if they're like, can I have $50, you'll be like, oh yeah. And then maybe you'll ask for something in return, or maybe you'll be like, oh, keep it, whatever. Like, it depends. But like, in that situation, you're the spirit. So like, you have to think about you being the person visiting and being like, can I have $50? And you're like, no.
I almost feel like, don't treat the spirit as if it's like this haunting Hollywood type. Just pretend it's like an actual person. Like we're talking right now.
You know? I learned from one of my mentors of like, they're not a vending machine. You know, you don't just like put a coin in and be like, boop, ooh, a working, like, you know, like, or like a, no, that's not how that works.
No, exactly.
So that's my hot take, I think. I don't know.
I feel like, and this is with me specifically with the plants, for example, like the more that you water that plant and the more that you take care of the plant, the more return you're obviously going to get. I think it's like that with everything in life, obviously, and it's the same with the spirits. Also, this is like the working spirit of that plant, in my opinion, too. Like, it just makes sense. So
yeah, I totally agree. But my lukewarm take.
I feel like that's the thing. Like, a lot of takes online, you have to. We were talking about this earlier. Like, they're not that hot, actually.
Not that hot. People just get that mad about things.
It's just social media online. Exactly. So if someone wanted to kind of get into, because you are kind of at this point like known, let's say, it's like a little bit of a we were talking about this too, like Death Witch, let's say. How would you like someone who's completely sort of like, they've already dabbled maybe a little bit in like witchcraft, and like they have a foundation of like understanding, but you know, like the steps to like actually start working in like a graveyard, for example, or like do something similar to you?
I think the first step is to learn about death culture, like maybe specifically around your culture first, and that's easier to branch out, but also just like around the world, because things are so starkly different, as well as folklore behind death and different like spirits and deities that work around death, like just kind of like learning about it, and not approaching it as like, first of all, this like dark, spooky, scary thing, but also not approaching it as like, no, death is beautiful and like it should be embraced. Like there's a balance. Like death can be beautiful, but it can also be the most devastating thing and like gruesome thing, and like it's not something that, like, I'm not going to go up to a grieving person and be like, but death is beautiful. Like, that's not you know, like that's not okay. And so I think learning about the culture of death and not even trying to make it witchy at first is like a really good way to go into that. Spending a lot of time in graveyards and cemeteries, and also learning like the historical context behind like why headstones are a certain way and all of the symbolism behind those, different trees that are planted and things of that. Like there's so much history that goes into death and even just cemeteries alone. So like learning those things I think is going to give you so much more to work with, and then I think things will inspire you to then put into your craft. So for example, I was with Benta recently, and there was Benta and there was a graveyard or a grave site with the whole family, and then at each grave site that had somebody there was a rose bush planted. And I was like, oh, that's kind of nice. But that inspired me, as in like, oh well, what if you did that and maybe that was your family, and then like if a rose bush was like not doing well, then maybe you could tend to that spirit specifically. Like, you know, like that I think would be then in turn like witchy. So that would be a good way. But basically just learning as much as you can is the short version of that.
I actually have, not to like plug my own book or anything, but I have a spell like that in my book.
Oh, you do?
Like basically like that every person has their little plant, or like that you have a family plant.
Yeah.
And that you're able to see if someone is not doing well by the plant.
Yes.
Because plants love, in my opinion at least, plants love connecting with you.
Yes.
And they will bond with you. And if the plant is not doing well, something's up.
Right. Yeah. Actually, I completely agree with that. And like, even if it's not just living people, like what if you're like almost like a spirit house type of thing? Like I've always thought that'd be interesting. I've just never done it, but like if I did, I mean, I think that would probably go out pretty well. Yeah, that's really, because it kind of goes into like mandrakes, and mandrakes, or Alraune in German, so popular for like spirit house sort of, that I guess sense. Yeah, that makes sense. And you'd actually like pour I've seen either milk or wine onto the mandrake to feed the mandrake spirit. I like wine too. So. Yeah, exactly. Ooh. We're like feeling the autumn vibes right now. Really are. I know. It's not planned, I swear. Thank you, tree spirits. Yes, exactly. So I actually have a question. Do you believe in like reincarnation with spirits, or what's your view on like spirits passing over? So I have a whole theory on this. Yes. Okay. I can hold this if you want, because it might. Go for it. I think Ivy and I went real deep with this one, but I don't know if it was on her channel or my channel. I'll link it. Yeah, one of them. Sorry. But basically I believe in reincarnation, but not in like the way of if you died you came back fully as like another person or as another thing. I feel like say I die, all of my energy goes into a big ocean, a pool, and then maybe 1% of that goes into this blade of grass, maybe 4% goes into a dog, and you know, like, and it just kind of gets spread. So then that kind of goes into my other belief of like everything is connected. So that is kind of that belief of like you are me and I am you, and you know, like we are these blades of grass and things like that. And yes, everything should be respected, but also everything is like just an ecosystem, the circle of life. Yeah, that's all it is. In my head I don't really believe there's like, you know, spirits playing puppets or like a god, you know, like that's controlling anything. I think they're just bigger parts of the ecosystem that have maybe a little bit more ability to do certain things in certain departments. Okay. I think that's as short as I can make it. So on that note, if you're going for a spirit meeting, like you're meeting a spirit, for example, or you're really like creating a relationship with that spirit in a graveyard setting, for example, do you think that spirit has stayed and remained here and chosen not to, for example, reincarnate? Or do you think part of that spirit has reincarnated but part is still workable here? So I have two theories. So, or maybe both are not the same, but both are like existing. So I think, say one of the spirits, like say there's like an old spirit, and if they never go into that energy pool, right, like there's not really a way for me to be connected to them unless there's like a familiar energy bit in them and me, but there's not like somebody else that was like died and created this spirit and me. Does that make sense? Kind of. Okay. So because like if they're still, I don't know how to explain this. It's always that thing where it makes sense in your mind, but having the words for it. So basically, if you're, for example, meeting the spirit of
one of these people that has passed away,
Right.
do you think that that spirit has fully reincarnated?
Oh, okay.
And do you think that's like an energy residue that you're working with, or the actual spirit and they haven't reincarnated, or only parts were reincarnated but a part will always be here?
I think it's a sliding scale, because I've met a lot of, I mean, if you're specifically talking about like spirits of the dead, then I think it's a sliding scale, because some spirits I think just, you know, like are...
And you're not going to be able to work with them at all?
Not at all. I do think that some are much harder than others, just because there's so little residue left.
Okay.
But there's others that I think, and I don't know if they choose. That's the thing, is like, I don't know if you can choose, or if that's like, I mean, I'm not a spirit, I don't know. So I do think that there are specific spirits that have stronger residue, and then if they're fed enough, they can continue to like keep going with that.
Yeah.
Whereas others, I mean, if they're not like really being fed, I almost feel like they fade, or like they kind of just go back in the energy pool. I don't think that they stick together as long.
Okay, so 2 questions then. Would you be able to reawaken a spirit that you think has faded?
I don't know. I've never tried that.
Yeah.
Have you?
Okay, so I feel like there are some spirits that I think have not been tapped onto for a really long time, but I think they are able to be reawoken. Like, I feel like I get the sense where it's like you wake them like out of the sleep basically, but you are able to kind of call them back.
Okay.
Then another question is, do you think you as a spirit, if you are a reincarnated spirit, for example, do you think maybe in your dreams, or just because you have a tingle going down your spine, maybe someone currently also practicing witchcraft is connecting with a residue part of your soul, and you are actively now, because you already are reincarnated, able to feel that, and maybe that's coming through in a dream, and you're actively like, you know?
This is some Doctor Who shit. I don't know. Like, no, actually, I've never thought of that concept.
Okay.
I think that's a super interesting concept.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to keep me up at night now.
Yeah, okay.
So I'll message you later and be like, Ella, oh my God. I don't know. I'm not sure. I think that's a really interesting concept, but I'm not sure if I'm like totally, you know?
Because sometimes I feel like I have a dream that is so random, and like a random person that at least don't know. I think I don't know. And sometimes I wonder if it is like someone else actively working with my grave somewhere else on this planet. And I'm like, could that be a thing?
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that like if there is something super similar,
Yeah.
like I feel like there's really weird places, or like
Yeah.
maybe there's like a tree specifically that I'm like, you just seem so familiar. And
Yeah.
it's like so weird, because it's like, it's a tree, but at the same time,
no, I
like
get it.
you can, there's like a specific aspect of it that just feels so similar and familiar that I'm like, no, I feel like I understand you and you understand me, and it's a tree, you know, like it's things like that, or like it's like a flower or whatever. So I think like that could happen, but I've never considered the concept of somebody using witchcraft to like awaken a spirit that once was part of me and is now part of me, and now they're using this residue. I think I've never considered that. That's
and that you're
really
able to actually feel that.
yeah, that's a really cool concept. Yeah, I never thought of that.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I don't know. I have like, so I feel like death for me, for example, is something that I love. And as you were saying, I don't think it's necessarily beautiful, because like the rotting body, for example, and like the way that worms eat the body and everything, like this sounds gory, but like it's part of accepting death.
Yeah.
And also, fun fact, well, it's not a fun fact, but like I always say fun fact, and it's the most gory, gruesome thing. But fun fact, nightshades, for example, specifically, like for example, belladonna, if you eat a belladonna berry and you die from it, usually berries, they don't grow out of your body, except for belladonna will. Belladonna will use your body as fuel to grow out of.
Oh, she's metal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's cool.
That's pretty cool.
Stuff.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So a lot of times belladonna will actually exist, especially near old ruins, and like where, for example, like monks used to live, and like graveyard sites and stuff. You'll often find those type of plants there. And it's similar to kind of how like willows also feed on your and like you'll often have like graveyards will often have specific trees, because they work really well with like
yeah
good soup.
Yeah. Good soup. That's funny. Oh my God. Yeah, I never considered that though.
Okay, so thank you for being here. And obviously I'm going to link everything down below, like Olivia's channels and everything. But do you have any like parting words or anything you want to say? Or maybe you want to bring attention to any course or anything you've kind of got coming up?
Oh God. No. I mean, I have a Patreon.
Yeah,
so
cool.
if you want more content of that sort, then you can definitely add me on Patreon. But otherwise, I think my only parting thing is always just stay curious, stay open, ask questions, even if you think they're stupid, they're probably not. So
That's true.
yeah.
That's true. So thank you for joining me here today. And yeah, if you have any questions or any topics, or you have any thoughts about any of the questions that we were discussing, leave them in the comments. Because I think these are like, I love these topics. I love talking about these type of things. But yeah, thank you everyone. And I love your parting words. I'll have you say yours and then I'll say mine.
Okay.
Like, you know, the like channel outro thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, I don't remember mine.
Okay. Mine is may you walk with your gods. All right. Thank you.
Yours.
Okay.
I'm like, I'm not on my channel. I don't remember.
Okay. Bye.
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 I'll pause. Beautiful train sounds, ambiance.
So 3 hours.
Yeah,
later.
just like add this bit. We're just sitting there like it's just train sounds, and we're like,
Like,
yeah.
exactly.